joining us on this Pride Sunday, where we celebrate LGBTQ+ folk amongst us and around us in our families and communities. One way to show support is at the Pride Parade, which is next Saturday and on sound at 3 o'clock. Please join us after church for a soup lunch. It's all provided and all are welcome. And thank you to the cooks and the bakers. Please remember the FBI, the Food Bank Initiative, and OSHARE, as they provide meals to students who go to school without any food. Make a donation through OSHARE or the Salvation Army. So announcements from our church. So Bible trivia, this is our second Sunday. Listen to the Genesis reading from the Torah, and the question is, why did Abram leave his home and set out for the land of Canaan? So that's why you have these papers. It's not for other comments or constructive critique of anything. So just drop them in the box, jar, pitcher, whatever at the back. So the beef barbecue, I know it's 2 months away, but it's the third Wednesday of August 16th. And the stewards are trying something different, I think, to increase the bottom line. Instead of buying butter tarts this year, we want to make butter tart squares. So we need 20 to 25 bakers to make anywhere between 1 and 3 pans. These are 9 by 13 pans. They have a short bread base, so there is no pastry to make. So for all of us who have made pies for 50 years, shortbread. So there's a sign-up sheet downstairs, your name, how many pans you think you could make. So hopefully we can give Marnie a sense of relief when she's back from her trip. And they can be made and frozen ahead and put in the freezer downstairs. So there's that too. Are there any other announcements? I've just skimmed them. So look at them at home. Next Sunday is the Indigenous Day of Prayer. Let us celebrate in worship and learn more about the Indigenous communities of faith within our United Church of Canada. And so we acknowledge that we live, work, and worship on the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the peoples of the three fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We light the Christ candle as a sign of God's Spirit at work in the world. May its light brighten our spirits and through us brighten the world. Yes. Sorry, I thought there was something. Let us pray responsively. Creating God, God beyond gender,
who makes no mistakes,
who surprises us always, who molded the first person,
both male and female, who molded the first non-gendered human, who loves all creation.
Help us love the diversity of your creation.
Help us accept all varieties of gender in ourselves and in others.
Help us celebrate those who are different from us,
that we may learn to love each other love us. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, both human and divine.
Creating God, God of mercy,
As we have acknowledged the diversity in this amazing world, created in atoms and molecules, but with an underlying spirit of mystery, we must also admit that at times we have forgotten of the wonders of that diversity. We have longed for things to be familiar and as they have always been. We know that the great religious traditions have caused harm in the past and continue to cause harm and pain to those who express their being in ways different than the majority. We know, too, that we individually, both intentionally and unintentionally, have rejected and shunned those who are not like us. For this, we are truly sorry and ask your patience as we learn and strive for ways to be more inclusive and celebrate all in this wondrous world. Amen.
We're going to stand to sing a song that you don't know. And Rosemary can talk to Sue about having to do half the service from the lectern. That was last week, that's this week. It's almost over, but if you can help lead us in this song, I'd be grateful. Some people have copies of the music and the words. We'll all have copies of the words. Best you listen to it through, and then we'll
Play
reboot
it
it.
through once, and then we'll ask you to start to sing.
Maybe we'll stand after we've heard it through, so we'll all know. Get up and go. Leka. Go from your country, your kindred, your father's house. Leave your place, your people, your home, your alliterative, imperative resonance in your bones if you let it. Leka. Out of Haran into Canaan. One set of primary narratives of a people who remember traveling all the way from the bottom of the Tigris-Euphrates basin down to the Gulf of the south of Iraq, up into Turkey and Syria, and then back down through Palestine. Think of it like our own founding narratives of immigration from Europe or around here from Scotland and Ireland. If you kept reading, and you got Bibles in the pews, you could do something during the sermon. You'd find that the next thing that happens, starting right after today's lesson, is they go down into Egypt. You thought that happened later, but it does. It just keeps repeating itself. We tell stories about who we are by making up stories about who we were. Legend has it, the Torah came out of Ur of the Chaldeans, the south Euphrates, moved 550 miles up to Haran, Turkey-Syria border with Avram and Sarai and Lot. And then, I'm just setting it up. Rosemary's then going to read us a story. Abram, in his turn, like Hagar, get up and go, leave. Then he goes through where there will be shrines in the future, Shechem, Bethel, north of Judah and Jerusalem. Abram keeps going, down into the desert in Egypt. Get up and go, Lech Lecha. Go from your country, your kindred, your father's house. Leave your place, your people, and your own. Does that word fit for us? We're a settler church. We're nearing 2 centuries from broken Treaty 46 and a half that Rosemary acknowledged at the beginning. Itself an admission that we were already encroaching and displacing the First Nations around here. So they got together up on Manitoulin in 1836 and said, whoops, might as well write it down. But does this stuff fit us? Like a lot of people would say that those who get up and go have already got up and went. You certainly can't get a good minister like you used to. The best and the brightest have gone on to politics, social work, government jobs. Who would work in the church? Who would come to church? We've exported our best and brightest, and it breaks our heart, including we've exported our LGBTQIA+ and two-spirited people who, when you asked them, said, man, I just had to get out of Dodge. I had to go somewhere else where I felt a different kind of home. The other gospel phrase to listen for in a moment as Rosemary reads is got up and followed. Matthew, also known as Levi in the other gospels, is sitting in his office. Not everybody's a fisherman. Some guys work in offices, army jobs, working for the government, everybody's managed all the time. Matthew, Levi, sees Jesus go by. Jesus sees him and says, follow. He got up and followed. And they're all reclining in a house. In the other Gospels, it's more clear that it's Levi's house. Here, it's not clear whose house it is, but at least he's welcome as the despicable person by class, by couth. The people who shower after work, not showering before work. Outcast, outlaw, unclean, mixing it up. Not just good boys and nice girls. Sinners, not evil criminals. Unhoras, got their hands dirty. And then along comes a holier guy, a synagogue leader and ruler from one of the real religious bodies, also known as Jairus. He says, I got trouble. I think my daughter has died. Can you help? And so Jesus, like, here's the flip. Right? We know the fisherman, right? He says, come, and they followed him. And we know that Matthew, he said, follow, and he got up and followed. Jesus, when he's told there's trouble, got up and followed the trouble. Which are we? Those left behind, those called to leave? He's also going to say, get up and go. To the professional mourners, hanging around and saying, oh, it's too late, but let's all sit around and cry together. I come to church just to make sure that the body's still dead. It's Pride Sunday. Next Saturday is the parade. The United Church will be there. We got it coordinated better this year. We will not be the coolest kids on the block. There'll be a bunch of people that look like me. And a lot of the people that we raised that are our people will be marching in other groups, walking in other groups, celebrating. But it matters if you show up. "1988, you ever heard that date said with reverence in the United Church? Didn't fix it all. Happily ever after from then on. There's always one more step. So we're going to sing about it. One more step along the way. You stand to sing. You know this one. Belt it out. I surprised you. You expect me to go for another 5 minutes?
Just a bit.
That's okay.
Genesis 12, 1 to 9. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran. And they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages towards the Negeb. God still speaks.
Thanks be to God.
And from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, selected verses 9 to 13 and 18 to 26. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but the sinners." While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader of the synagogue came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout that district. God still speaks. Thanks
be to God.
So it's Pride Month, and a lot of United Churches, it's the first Sunday in June that we celebrate Pride. Next weekend, as I said, Owen Sound is recognizing Pride with a parade. Would have made sense to do it then, but here we are. The whole month is Pride. It's about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, plus, and two-spirit people. Part of the job for 50 years, the vocation, has been to say words like that in church. Used to get in trouble for that. Now, we don't even think about it. We just recite the alphabet and go home. And don't really engage it. Oh yeah, been there, did that, figured that out. Everything's okay, right? It risks getting things wrong. We always get things wrong. And man, I'm going to be embarrassed about this in about 5 minutes. And next year, and the year after, God willing, because I will have changed again. I will know something next time that I didn't know this time, or that I just plain got wrong and somebody told me, man, you messed with me again. I keep telling you, in 1969, the United Church came out with a daring statement and said, man is a bisexual animal. We were working on gender, I think, and marriage and stuff like that in 69. Language changed, and its meaning. Gay used to mean something else in the 1800s. I confess to you, back in 1981, I had a bunch of clients, and we did a bunch of tribunals for handicapped persons' income assistance to get them extra social assistance money during what we call sex change surgery. God forgive our diction, but everybody knew which United Church you could go to get help if you were struggling with something and you needed the extra cash because you couldn't work while you were getting all these drugs and you were challenged by being accepted and your parents had already rejected you. And the people who knew you were somebody else. 40 years ago, gay liberation. Fairy circles. They still dance in the Pacific Northwest. A bunch of men go out and dance in fairy circles. Drag queens, drag shows, that's become much more public and mainline. And yet, it seems to draw genocidal response even now. 40 years ago, early whispers of some kind of disease, Kaposi's, sarcoma, and we called it AIDS and HIV and people with AIDS. And thank God, 40 years ago, Princess Diana, you remember? Making contact, mixing it up with the unclean. So 35 years ago, 1988, Sexual Orientation, Lifestyles, and Ministry report had been going for 5 years. I'd been traveling around the West trying to sell it. 3 days in the Keewatin Presbytery gathering of all the indigenous churches. We called them native churches back then. We got together for 3 days, and me and this other stupid white guy hung around for 3 days trying to say, so the church is talking about sexual orientation, lifestyles, and ministry. Everybody just kind of stared us down. And then, like Nicodemus at night, people would come around after the meals and say, oh yeah, we've always had folks like that. What? But we don't recognize the way you're talking about it. So it's become clearer now in the language of Two-Spirited. We're learning to talk about it. So in 1988, the United Church said something very cautious about sexual orientation is not in and of itself a bar to baptism, confirmation, and membership. Duh. The issues keep getting renamed, reframed. We're talking about gender identity and expression for the last 20 years. We're talking about gender fluidity and pronouns and self-naming now. The front line seems to be about these gay straight alliances and hanging flags in schools and accommodation with washrooms. It's never tidy, it never was. But I'm looking at our crowd here today. Don't let anybody make you feel stupid. As if there was some stable consensus which has always been in place throughout your life and you were too stupid to catch up before now. Everybody's been sorting this sucker out for the whole of our lifetime. The question is, are we doing it with any kind of grace and mercy? You know my line. When everybody thinks the same thing, nobody's thinking. Here's Leonard Cohen. You can look it up on Google. I'll just do a couple of verses and I won't sing it. Leonard Cohen, everybody knows. Everybody knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got this broken feeling like their father or their dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everyone wants a box of chocolates and a long stem rose. Everybody knows. You can take that posture. That fatalistic, yeah, I'm okay, they're stupid. But you can try to engage it and mix it up with each other and admit that I don't know, what do you think? But the bottom lines that we keep on throwing out are what side of the fence are you on and who's there with you? What if the fence is moving and the crowds are changing and renaming and they look different? Then each of us and all of us again has to hear the word today, let the God. Get up and go. Try again. Take another step. From or to what? Who? Where? Go from your country, your kindred, your father's house. Leave your place, your people, your home. Do we have to do this again? We did gay. In 1988. It's over, right? Well, no, it's not over. Apparently, it's not enough to say the right thing once, softly. You have to be public, intentional, explicit. That's why we're asking for PIE, P-I-E, because others purport to speak in my name. They are not speaking in my name. And they're doing harm. And sometimes, just because of the way I look, a cisgendered old white guy, people assume they know what I think. And they think they know what this church stands for. If you don't get public, intentional, and explicit, they're going to keep thinking it. Well, that was quite a ramble, wasn't it? And I guess I could go on all day, but you know better than I. God makes a glorious diversity of humans. We have always been way more interesting than good boys and nice girls. We've always been more complex. And anybody who's raised kids knows how complex those kids are and become, and thank God for it. Leonard Cohen's final verse, and I'll end this because everybody knows that you're in trouble. Everybody knows what you've been through. From the bloody cross on top of Calvary to the beach of Malibu. Everybody knows it's coming apart. Take one last look at this sacred art before it blows. Everybody knows. So this little congregation of ours may be declining. And it's not all my fault, just partly. But what's the legacy and what's the witness to be? They meant well. He made us think. How about they changed and they kept changing and they kept the most surprising company. And they stood up for their kids and their grandkids. Because we should live out of this, what we believe and what we've been shown, and take the next step as if our legacy was at stake, as if our very souls were at stake. Yes, they are. What word do you have for our hearts, O God? Give us ears to hear. We're going to listen to Spirit Open My Heart from Louise and Ron and pass a plate. It symbolizes the what are you going to do about it part. Beloved one, we offer our thanks for the holy witness of the lives of LGBTQIA+ and Two-Spirit people. In queer love and in trans and intersex bodies, we experience Christ in flesh. In the faith of those who have been persecuted by the church, Christ is revealed. In the queer practices of community, of love that takes risks, and of telling the truth, even when it's costly, Christ lives on. In gratitude for these and all the sacred gifts of the LGBTQIA+ and Two-Spirit communities, we give our thanks and offer these gifts. Amen. Quite a while, each of us in our own place through the week in the world, all of us together in this half hour. And yet we pause once more and say it's for prayer, to give thanks and to ask. And we wonder at the prayers of each other one around us and those we have met along the way here and those we should follow as we leave this place, to keep company as Christ would. We confess what we don't know, and we ask to be shown, to be taught, to be led, to be changed into what you made us to be, into what you equipped us to do. For we are part of your humanity across the world and across the globe. We gather in prayers with and for the peoples and churches of Botswana and Zimbabwe today, sharing a post-colonial experience after British imperialism, the Boer War through Rhodesia and South African wars, who invite us to pray still for the AIDS HIV epidemic around and among them. As they pray, dear God, our builder, you have all the building materials needed to construct our societies. You have all the strength to put wisdom on all that has fallen apart in our lives. You have the wisdom to reshape our world. Inspire us with all your wisdom, strength, and love to rebuild the broken walls in our community. Lord God, we give you thanks for sending your only Son to give us life in the midst of wealth. We are crushed by poverty. And while we are offered Christ's life in all its fullness, we are surrounded by disease, death, and destruction. We are tempted to despair and yet keep hoping, knowing that you care. At times we weep silent tears and cry out with deep emotion. We come to you, our only hope and refuge, and thank you for the gift of laughter even when the going is tough. With you, O Lord, may we be troubled but not destroyed. We join in a prayer offered by Lydia Smith from the National Church for this Pride Month. Constant friend, because people of every sexual orientation, gender expression, and gender identity have the right to live with dignity and without persecution or discrimination. We remember in our prayers LGBTQ plus people of Chechnya, Uganda, Zambia, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and elsewhere who have been murdered or tortured because of who they are. We remember them and the people who love them. LGBTQ plus refugees from around the world seeking safety and sanctuary. We remember them and the people who welcome them. Trans and gender diverse people in Canada, the United States, Brazil, and elsewhere who are targeted victims of hate crimes and assaults. We remember them and the people who love them. LGBTQ plus people whose dignity and self-esteem have been eroded by hateful systems and structures. We remember them and seek to be people who love more fully. Individually, we each uniquely reflect your glory and express your love. But anti-gay violence, homophobia, and transphobia have blocked many from recognizing your beauty in all people. All creation suffers from the effects of such hate, fear, and violence. Daily, may we dedicate ourselves to building bridges of love and hope where harmful divisions have been made, making equity and equality for all people our goal, while working continually for justice so that everyone can live fully in your love. When words fail, we echo the words that we were taught to say and try to fill them with new meaning and the same spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. We're going to sing, I called you by your name. God got it right. We just weren't listening.
You
go from here to proclaim good news. God takes on flesh in the strange and surprising. Love liberates from the margins. Together we have what we need to resist evil and oppression. With a renewed commitment to solidarity with God and all LGBTQIA+ and two-spirited people, may the Spirit lead us from this place with peace as we sing. Get up and go. And you get up and follow. And then I say, sit down. And listen once more. It's More Voices 154. Thanks if you're following it. Deep in our hearts. And then we'll go downstairs for soup. You don't have to linger up here. The soup's good. The space is big.